our family's happiness was destroyed by my own sister. She stole my husband and they both suddenly disappeared. However, less than a year later, an invitation to their wedding arrived from my sister. To my shock, my high school-aged son said that he would happily attend his father's and aunt's wedding. What? How could you? Why? I was devastated to see my son, whom I thought was my only ally, acting this way. However, at that moment, I didn't realize the truth. My son was actually angrier than anyone else. I met Shane, who is 5 years older than me, through a friend, and we got married a year later. For me, who had lost both parents, having a new family was the greatest happiness. I became a homemaker when I got pregnant, but Shane, being in a managerial position with a stable income, ensured that we didn't have any financial worries. I cooked meals for him and we chatted about trivial things when he came home. We were living peaceful days like that. I thought it would continue like that forever. However, this happiness gradually began to change its form. I began to notice a change when my son Alex entered his 3rd year of junior high school. Until then, Shane had always come home on time, and we would have dinner together. But suddenly, he started coming home later. I understood that he was busy as a manager. However, when he would cancel family outings we had planned in advance or come home in the middle of them due to work, I couldn't help but feel frustrated too. As Alex grew older and our time together as a family became less, I didn't appreciate Shane's behavior. But when I tried to address it, he would sigh with furrowed brows.
Being a stay-at-home mom must be nice. It's my job, so it can't be helped. You get to relax at home because I'm the one working.
When he said that, I was left speechless. However, he might not have realized that whenever he came home late, there was always the lingering scent of a woman's perfume that I didn't recognize. Is it really just work? Despite my suspicions, I tried to convince myself that he might have business dinners at places where there are women. But just because I tolerated it didn't mean his behavior would change. I couldn't talk to my son about it, so I decided to talk to my sister Penny. Although we were sisters, she was quite different from me, with a carefree and adventurous personality. She'd changed jobs frequently and moved around a lot. She even missed my wedding because she was abroad at the time. I heard that she happened to live nearby, so I decided to visit her. Little did I know that this decision would drastically change my life. When I headed for Penny's place, I saw an unbelievable scene. There was Shane, who was supposed to be at work, hugging my sister openly right at the doorstep. "Why are you here?" Shane was surprised that I spoke to him, but it was only a moment before he started to become defensive.
Who I hang out with is none of your business. Stop making a scene here.
While my husband was red-faced and shouting, Penny remained indifferent to it.
Ah, you finally caught us. What brings you here so early in the morning?
I was filled with questions about how Shane and Penny, who barely knew each other, ended up like this. As I listened to their explanation, it seemed that when my sister had visited our house, I wasn't home, so Shane welcomed her instead. It turned out that it was the first time Shane had properly met Penny, and he fell in love with her at first sight. From there, their relationship began.
Don't give me that scary look. That's why you're going to lose your precious husband.
As Penny pulled his arm closer, I noticed the faint scent of her perfume, which was the same one that always lingered on my husband's clothes. Shane has been cheating on me with Penny, even lying about going to work. I suddenly got sick and I wanted to leave that place as soon as possible. I feel sick. I don't want to see your face. I'll come to hear your explanation tomorrow, so don't come home today. I somehow made it home struggling with dizziness and I spent the night crying. I got aghast when I headed back to my sister's place after I'd calmed myself down the next day. I rang the doorbell, but there was no answer. So I peeked through the gap in the curtains. I saw the house was completely empty, no furniture or anything. They disappeared unexpectedly. What is going on? How could they do this overnight? Of course I got questions about it, but I realized that if it had been planned in advance, it was possible. They must have set their plans because of being found out by me. I was filled with anger and emptiness. I realized that I had been completely betrayed. I returned home with heavy steps, and I found an envelope in the mailbox. There was a divorce form with my husband's section filled out. I don't have the strength to cry anymore. Afterward, I explained things to my son indirectly, but Alex is already 15 years old. He seemed to understand everything, nodding without much surprise.
What Dad has done can't be taken back, but I love you more than him, so you'll be fine. Get well soon.
I would have probably broken down much sooner without Alex. The determination to do my best for my son's sake gave me strength. I have him. With that thought, I turned over a new leaf and started working part-time to cover his school fee, putting all my effort into it. When my son successfully passed his entrance exams and got accepted into his desired school, I was overjoyed with him. However, we got a letter from those flipping too. After a year they disappeared as if they wanted to ruin our lives. It was a wedding invitation from Penny and Shane. I don't even want to see their names anymore. What the heck are they thinking? I couldn't bear it, especially when it was addressed to my son. I got furious about the thought of them still trying to involve themselves with my family, so I headed straight to the trash to throw it away. However, Alex snatched the invitation out of my hands when he saw it.
Oh, it finally arrived.
What do you mean? Did you know about this?
Yeah. Dad said he'd sent it, so I figured it was about time.
My mind went blank and I got frozen by Alex's words. My son, who had apparently been in contact with Shane, was now smiling as he looked at the invitation. What? How could you? Why? I thought he was carrying the same burden of sadness as me, but I never imagined he had been in touch with his father. When I found it out, I couldn't help but blame Alex. But he remained unfazed.
Mom, haven't you noticed? I've been waiting for this moment.
He said with a cheerful tone, but I couldn't understand what he meant. You know, at that moment, I still didn't know what my son was planning to do. And then the wedding day arrived. Having been informed of my son's plan, I followed his instructions and quietly hid in a corner of the venue. Amidst the blessings of many guests, the reception finally began. Seeing Shane and Penny, filled with happiness as they sat at the main table, made my heart ache. Here I am, following Alex's instructions, but is this really okay? I felt like I was going to be crushed by anxiety, but then the moment finally arrived.
Today, he has prepared a special speech to celebrate his father.
The host introduced my son like that and thunderous applause erupted from the audience. Alex stood up from his seat and slowly walked towards the stage. Shane watched our son proudly, while Penny smiled happily. Alex, looking a bit embarrassed, got on the stage and took out his prepared speech. However, the atmosphere in the venue was about to change drastically.
Congratulations on your wedding, Dad, and Kelly.
The newlyweds turned to look at my son in surprise.
Hey. It's Penny, not Kelly. Penny.
My husband hastily stood up in a panic, but Alex remained calm and composed.
Oh, right. Kelly is the name of my real mother, whom Dad selfishly abandoned. The audacious woman, sitting next to my dad, who stole a husband from her sister and even dared to have a wedding, is Penny. My bad.
The venue was left in stunned silence at my son's words. After a while, the guests began whispering to each other with puzzled expressions.
What are you saying? Stop this nonsense. It's not what you told me.
Ha! What were you expecting, Dad? Did you think I'd give some touching speech?
At that moment, my son gave a signal, and a video started playing on the large screen in the venue. On the screen, it showed my son and husband having a meal at a restaurant. Shane, in the video, appeared to be drinking, his face flushed.
You have it tough, huh? Having such a ugly woman as a mother, who's only good at doing housework. Just leave that house and come to mine.
Don't say things like that. But let's keep meeting up like this, okay, Dot?
Yeah, sure. Just keep it a secret from that old hag. She'd make a fuss if she found out, you know.
The venue was filled with my husband's vulgar remarks and crude laughter, making everyone uncomfortable. While Shane and Penny got paler, Alex was having a big smile.
I love my mom and I'm proud of her. I don't know what you hated so much, Dad, but you abandoned your family and went after Mom's sister, right? That's something I could never do.
Stop talking. Don't spread lies, especially when colleagues from work are here.
Of course, my husband wouldn't be openly discussing the circumstances of his marriage to Penny with the guests from work. Looking at the seats of our work-related guests, I saw everyone with furrowed brows, wearing stern expressions.
Be proud of yourself, Dad. You've chosen your own happiness. I think it's amazing to pursue love so passionately, even if it means destroying a family.
Despite his smile, I could sense an underlying rage in my son's expression that sent shivers down my spine. He continued by playing various videos and audio recordings. These included the moment when Shane started cheating, Penny's act of seduction, Shane ran away from me, and likely recordings taken during the times he secretly met with Shane without my knowledge. Shane, who had thought of Alex as his ally, had let his guard down and shared various details every time they met.
Enough. Is Kelly behind this? You're too malicious. What kind of person are you?
Penny's voice rang out as if she were the victim. Finally, Shane reached boiling point, and he stood up from his seat, then approached my son. Watch out. That thought crossed my mind as my body moved reflexively. I jumped in front of my son, taking the slap from Shane intended for him.
Are you Kelly?
Shane widened his eyes when he saw me, dressed as a staff member, fall to the ground after being slapped. Actually, when we arrived at the venue, my son had told me.
Pretend to be a staff member and wait inside the venue. I've told them that you're part of the surprise, so it'll be fine.
So, I had dressed in the provided clothes and sneaked into the reception hall.
Mom, are you okay?
Alex rushed over in a panic and peered down at me with a worried expression.
I was supposed to be the one getting hit,
Did you provoke him on purpose for that? As my son nodded slightly in response to that question, Shane shouted even more.
Are you all in on this? Cut it out. Anyone who can't celebrate our marriage can leave right now.
But what awaited my husband, who was breathing heavily, was a sight he hadn't expected at all. As some of the guests began to leave their seats, others followed suit one by one. Eventually, even some of the relatives sitting in the family section left the venue without even looking at the bride and groom. The only ones left in the room were his parents. But their faces were contorted with anger.
Hey! Didn't you say your ex-wife cheated on you and left?
It seemed my husband had painted me as the villain, earning sympathy from his parents and planning to be with Penny. Wow. So you lied about your previous marriage to justify marrying Penny?
Well, you see.
Well, whatever. You're throwing such a splendid wedding. So, you have money, right?
Huh.
When I addressed Shane, he turned to me with a foolish expression. Since you suddenly disappeared, I couldn't claim any compensation. Shane, you owe $30,000, and Penny, $15,000.
Huh. Why do I have to pay too?
As I said this, my sister's face turned as red as an apple, and she raised her voice. Of course. I will settle what you two did with money, so be grateful.
Hold on a second. Do you have any idea how much this wedding cost? We were counting on congratulatory money from them, but everyone left, and I don't have any money.
Neither do I. I spent my savings on going to beauty salons just for this day.
They were all shouting selfishly, but I couldn't care less about their excuses. I'll handle everything through my lawyer from now on. We'll never see each other again, so I wish you the best of luck. I made the greatest sarcastic remarks at the two who could hardly find happiness, and I left the scene with my son. I heard that Shane and Penny faced a rough time afterward. Since they had invited friends, everything was exposed to them, and all of them cut ties with them. Shane received a cold shoulder from his bosses and colleagues who attended the wedding reception, and as a result, he repeatedly made mistakes at work. This led to significant losses for the company, and eventually, he got fired. It seems they are now living together in a rundown apartment. The happiness they took from me faded away, leaving behind only a miserable life. On the other hand, I am living happily with my son. He told me he wanted to become a lawyer in the future. I'll support him wholeheartedly so that his big dream comes true.